What to expect from XCN Onyxcoin. This is NC Hammer Crypto. My name is Neil. Keeping technical analysis short and sweet. For the people who missed the live feed, definitely check it out. It is 2 hours, something long. Always accepting members and donations. 50% goes to save animals' lives. But we see XCN is having its pullback. A lot of people are freaking out, but this is a very healthy move. As we see, this green line here shows that it is more than likely going to be pushing out of this black channel, and we could have some support pulling it right back in like we just had, and then we want to see some consolidation to ease across this downward channel. If we can break this black downward trend line, we can expect that push up towards the 200 EMA, which is right around the 0.0088. Consolidate and then test this red trend line yet again. That would be the most ideal situation. It is still possible for this to come all the way down here to 0.004 again before turning around, but it's less likely. We'd have to see Bitcoin do a major drop, more than likely down to the 75,000, which was explained on the live feed, which would essentially be pushing this all the way down here, finding its base again, building higher lows, working our way back up towards this red downward trend line. That's essentially the other option. Obviously, if it's not bullish, it's bearish. It's 50-50, but we try and gather all the data to try and make sense of it. So if we remove this, if I were a bear looking at this, this is what I would be looking at. Okay, so we see that the bears tried to push this to a lower price point. They tried again, didn't work out too well, came all the way back through the CM guppy. But it tried one more time, create a little bit higher, I guess lower low in this case, but this is a higher high because it's inverted. And then could not beat that previous higher high, got exhausted and had that major push beyond the 200 EMA. So with that major pullback, the bears are a little bit more scared now because we just had a waterfall pushing it all the way to roughly a penny and 1.3 cents more or less. Now we're pulling back to make it healthy. And as long as this closes above this area around the 0.004, we are looking more bullish. So the pullback is still a possibility. It really depends on what Bitcoin's going to do. Because if Bitcoin pulls back, XCN is going to pull back along with the rest of the cryptocurrencies. But as long as we are building lower highs in the inverted scale, in this case, if we are building higher lows, we are getting more bullish. So ideally, with everything back on the chart, there we go. Ideally, we want to see something like this. We want to see that hold as support. More than likely, that's not going to happen. We are more than likely going to push out of this trend line right here, and we will be testing support a little bit lower. This red trend line, or the red line that is pasted right here, is where the original CM guppy was about to be before it had that major flip. And so now this pocket is more or less where the liquidity is sitting, waiting to enter back into the market for the people that sold off around the penny, grab some profit to re-enter back in a little bit lower as the pullback is necessary. And then also, if you were on the live chat, I may have brought this up where we want to see this come up, form a little W, and then work our way with higher lows and eventually be overbought and then work back towards the 50. And if you look at that for the yellow would be doing something more or less like that. And we could make that yellow. So that's essentially what we want to see. Let's get this back. In this area, we could see this push up over the yellow and then come back down. And that would essentially be working our way through this channel, eventually breaking that. And really, the 200 EMA is very close. It's exhausted. And the red line is also exhausted. So one more touch to both of those, and we should see this thing start to run. Keeping in mind when we get over that red downward trend line, we'd want to see a pullback, find some support before the continuation upward. It would be healthy because the 200 EMA would just be right here while we cross over that, and it would give us the ability to consider the 200 EMA and the downward red trend line as support before pushing up to new all-time highs. So we are essentially just waiting. This downward channel is what we are working within. We need to break out of that to the upside. If it does break to the downside, we'd be looking for some support within this 0.005 area, but it could have that continuation down here depending on what Bitcoin is going to be doing. And when we look at Bitcoin, comparing it to how the live feed was, it's not looking the best. It's getting a wick off. It's looking pretty bearish, but it is a little bit oversold. So we'd want to see this pull back up over the 90,000 and hold a consolidation so we could have that move towards the 200 EMA. Ideally, it needs to close above 96,000 to have the continuation to the upside. It did not hold this red trend line. That was very minimal. It did not hold this black trend line, which is more or less what we wanted it to hold. Now it is more or less resistance because when we pull back up, we will probably get a little bit of a pullback off of that as we tested it as support. Now it is being tested as resistance, needs to be broken and held as support yet again, consolidating around that 97,000. The only reason XRP would dip as low as it possibly would down to the 0.004 is Bitcoin would have to drop all the way down here, testing this red downward trend line as support before immediately pulling right back up, which we've seen that in the past where it broke. Well, I guess this isn't the best example, but it had this push way down to the 73,000 for 2 or 3 days, making people think it's going to have a continuation before immediately pulling right back up and having the new all-time high be created. So we are in that moment where you have the opportunity to buy almost every cryptocurrency at a discounted price. And even if it does the liquidity sweep for some reason way down here, if that were to happen, that's where you're looking for your entry because Bitcoin is not dead. There are major institutions, ETFs being released, a bunch of bullish news. And so we just wait for Bitcoin to get up, consolidate. Ideally, we would want to be closing anywhere above 85,000 or roughly 81,000. These two yellow lines, if we close anywhere in there and then we see that reversal, that is where you would be looking for your entry. If on Bitcoin, XCN looking a little bit different, we could see that push down, ideally support at the 0.005, coming back into the channel and then breaking out and giving the ultimatum for the red downward trend line. That is our main goal, is to get above that red trend line and the 200 EMA. If you have not entered XCN, right here in this pocket is where you'd be looking for your entry. If you have entered XCN, maybe you'd want a dollar cost average at this low price as well, because we are waiting to see what Bitcoin will do, but volume is picking up a little bit, nothing too substantial. So it's a waiting game at this point. We've already waited these many months for this to take off, if not the entire last year before market manipulation. And so we just need to break out of this wedge once and for all. That's it for this video. Like and subscribe. Become members if you want. Good luck. Have fun with it. I will see you guys on the next one.